Brett Strong, Internet Skeptic, series title, 60 Seconds or Less, where I utterly destroy the world's top Christian apologist in 60 seconds or less. Up next to bat will be Mary Jo Sharp. She's a cutie, very delightful, perky personality, that is. She teaches down at Houston Baptist University or something like that. She's probably the top Christian woman apologist in the world. So that's why I got to include her. Very delightful person. We've spoken several times on the internet. Very delightful. Nothing against her. I wish her much success in her books and her lecturing series and her university teaching. She's doing a great job. She's up and coming, which is why I include her in my podcast. And so now it's time for her to get utterly destroyed. She likes to lecture about pagan gods. Basically saying, hey, pagan gods like Horus, Mithras, are totally different from the New Testament ancient Jesus. So we got these ancient pagan gods, she says, and we got the ancient New Testament Jesus. Totally different. She shows through a lecture, so you can't compare the ancient pagan gods to the New Testament Jesus. And somehow, through the lecture series, she gets to see these pagan gods are fiction, myths, not real, but the New Testament Jesus is real. And that's where I have to laugh, because rightfully so, those pagan gods are a myth. They're fabricated. They're fiction. But also, you have to throw the New Testament Jesus in that same pile of the pagan gods as being myth, fabricated fairy tales. Regardless if they're different as far as the writings said different things about them, it doesn't matter. All these ancient gods, whether it's Mithras, Horus, Zeus, New Testament Jesus, the Christian God, they're all fiction. But she likes to say, no, the New Testament Jesus is real. But, when you look at the ancient text, the Gospels, that's where we get basically all our information from the New Testament Jesus, we get basically all our information from the Gospels. They're anonymous. We don't know who wrote them. We don't know when they were written or the origin where they were written. We don't know anything. We can guess, and people do. But ultimately, they're anonymous. Undated, unsigned, origin unknown. So, the New Testament superhero Jesus, he comes from anonymous writings. I mean, listen to my other podcast series titled 60 Seconds or Less. I speak more definitely about it, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm going to spend more time on something else to show how wrong Mary Jo Sharp is. So, like I said, once again, the New Testament Jesus, Mary Jo Sharp somehow gets to the point that he's real. Well, the Gospels is where you get almost all Jesus' information from, the Gospel, and they're anonymous. That's a huge red flag, folks. When you got all your information from a source that's anonymous, that's a huge red flag. Boop, 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 boop. Something wrong. And of course, as I say in my podcast, listen to him. This anonymous writing has a superhero character as his main lead character. So we got the anonymous documents called the Gospels. They're anonymous. So we have anonymous writings, and the lead character is a superhero character. Flies in the air, disappears through walls, face turns into the sun. Does all kind of fantastical things like Superman and Spider-Man. It's fiction. That's obviously. And Mary Jo Sharp, for some reason, it amazes me, folks, how you get such intelligent people like Mary Jo Sharp buys into an ancient superhero character. When we can look at Superman, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, and just say from common sense, these are. We don't even need to know what the source is from Superman, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk. We don't need to know the source. We just look at it and read and go, well, this is obviously fiction. Same thing in New Testament Jesus. Forget that it's anonymous. The source is anonymous. Just looking at it, superhero character, man with superhero characters, come on. This is like Superman, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk. It's fiction. But I'm going to skip that because I speak a lot about that in my other podcast. Listen to my entire podcast series. I'm going to focus on, with Mary Jo Sharp, to show how inadequate her beliefs are. I'm going to focus on the New Testament Jesus in the now. So Mary Jo Sharp believing that the New Testament Jesus, the ancient 2,000-year-old character, 2,000 years ago written about, Mary Jo Sharp said that character, the New Testament Jesus character, the superhero character, is real. So that would mean to Mary Jo Sharp and to all Christians that New Testament Jesus, if that he's alive today, that means he's 2,000 years old, folks. But let me back up for a minute. Archaeologists, they've done tests on, as I said in my other podcast, on ancient bone boxes from the 1st century of Jewish men, and the average Jewish men during the time, 1st century, is said to be between 5'1", 5'3", about 110 pounds. So the New Testament Jesus would be the historical Jesus, not the historical Jesus, if there was one. But let's say, for the sake of argument, there was a historical Jesus. He would have been about 5'1", 110 pounds, dark skin, curly hair. He's Palestinian. He's not a white guy that lives in California, surfs and blue eyes and long hair. No, he's Palestinian, ancient. He'd been about 5'1", 110 pounds, dark skin, curly hair. Does that sound like a New Testament Jesus you guys worship? Anyways, so let's look at the New Testament Jesus if he was alive today. This is all for the sake of argument, because obviously he's fiction. Now, Mary Jo Sharp would be saying that today, right now, there's a guy who's 5'1", about 5'1", 110 pounds, dark skin, curly hair, right? And he's alive today. So this is where it gets preposterous. So, according to Mary Jo Sharp, right now, there's a fish-eating 2,000-year-old man with superhero powers. And he has stab wounds in his hands, feet, and side. That's ridiculous. But Mary Jo Sharp, this is what she's professing to believe in. That right now there's a 5'1", 110 pound guy, dark skin, curly hair, and he eats fish. He's a fish-eating little guy that's 2,000 years old with superhero powers. I mean, he walks on water, he turns water into wine, he controls the weather, his face turns into the sun. and this superhero character that was 2,000 years old, fish-eating, he's got stab wounds in his hands, feet, and side. Wow. Mary Jo Sharp, you mean to tell me that's not stuff of legend? That this is not a myth? This is not pure fiction? You mean to profess, Mary Jo Sharp, before the world that there's a 2,000-year-old guy, a fish-eating 2,000-year-old guy with superhero powers, and he's got stab wounds in his hands, feet, and side? And this fish-eating 2,000-year-old guy with superhero powers, with stab wounds in his body, he's 5'1", 110 pounds. Come on, Mary Jo Sharp, you're smarter than that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with believing in fairy tales. I mean, kids believe in Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy. And so, Mary Jo Sharp, if you want to believe in fairy tales, that's fine. But just don't be dogmatic about it. It's kind of cute. Mary Jo Sharp, you're a woman. It's cute to hear a woman believe in this type of stuff. So you're a woman. And women are smart too, but I'm talking about you specifically, Mary Jo. You're a cute woman, and you're very vivacious. You got a great personality. So it's kind of fun talking to you about this fish-eating 2,000-year-old guy with superhero powers, with stab wounds in his hands, feet, and side. And he's a little guy, 5'1", 110 pounds. I mean, nonetheless, this is clearly fiction. But for the sake of argument, let's continue. Mary Jo Sharp, you say this little guy. Well, I'm going to ask you, Mary Jo Sharp, has he aged? I mean, seriously, if he's 2,000 years old, does he have white hair? I mean, is he like hunched over, skin and bones, white hair, frail, elderly looking? I mean, if you go to a nursing home, you see people 90, 100, man. The vast majority are just humped over, wheelchair bound, white hair, oxygen tank. So 2,000 years, 2,000-year-old guy, he probably be in worse conditions, right? I mean, is he hunched over? Does he have like white hair? Is he skin and bones? Does he have an oxygen tank on? Does he have like IV tubes running through his body? I mean, 2,000 years old. I mean, if it happens to a person 100 years old, imagine 2,000-year-old. All right? And, this superhero character who's 2,000 years old, 5'1", 110 pounds, little guy that is able, a superhero character. He has heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, kidneys, bladder. So I gotta ask, if you read the Luke and you read Acts 1-9, I mean, the guy's eating food. Luke, when he appears to his disciples, scaring the heck out of them, he's like, let's eat some fish, dude. So he's a fish-eating guy. In Acts 1-9, he ate a meal with him. So this guy eats, right? So, and he has, human organs, heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, kidney, bladder. So I gotta ask Mary Jo Sharp, where does he pee? I mean, where does he poop? I mean, he's eating fish. The fish has got to go someplace, right? Acts 1 through 9, he ate a meal with them. The food's got to go someplace. So, between appearing and disappearing and reappearing out of thin air, where does he poop? Where does he pee? I mean, seriously. I mean, can you imagine hiking in the woods, all of a sudden a big splatter of human feces plops down from the sky? I mean, you might be tempted to say, dude, maybe that was Jesus, because he flies in the air and disappears in a cloud. I mean, maybe it was Jesus who pooped on everybody, I mean, if there's pee from the sky and you see like a shoom, it might be Jesus, right? I mean, think about it. He's got human organs, right? And he ate fish, he ate a meal. I mean, folks, if you ever come home and see food missing, I mean, there's a possibility it could be Jesus, right? Because he eats food, as shown in Luke and Acts, right? And so if you come in your refrigerator and food's been gone and cooked, you're like, well, maybe Jesus was here. And you walk in the bathroom, there's a big big poop in your toilet or pee, maybe Jesus was here. I mean, the guy ate, the superhero character in the Gospels, he ate. In Luke, he ate fish, and Acts, he ate with the disciples. So obviously, if he's got human organs, he's got to do something with it. I mean, unless you're going to say the fish and the food disappears within him, I mean, like I said, he's got a bladder, though. He's got intestines. I mean, this is just human function. I mean, he's superheroes, if you look at Superman and Spider-Man and Incredible Hulk, those guys poop too and pee. So Jesus is another superhero character, but this is all fiction anyway. So it's just for the sake of argument. That's all. Just to show Mary Jo Sharp, like, what she's believing. This is fiction. The New Testament superhero Jesus is fiction. That's why he comes from an anonymous source. It's fiction. I mean, to think that this superhero character, born of a virgin, right? 12 years old, he's smarter than Einstein, smarter than any human on earth at 12. So he's born of a virgin, 12 years old, he's smarter than anyone in history. 30 years old, he's a real superhero. Flying in the air, disappearing through walls, walking on water, turning water into wine, face turning into the sun. I mean, this is fiction. To think of a man, Spider-Man, a man that turns into Spider-Man and he webs comes from his wrist and latches onto a building and he flies off on it. Come on, that's fiction. Superman, Clark Kent, goes into the telephone booth, puts on a Superman cape and off into the sky. It's a bird in a plane. No, it's Superman. Same thing with Jesus. Come on. Born of a virgin, 12 years old, he's smarter than any human in history. 30 years old, he's flying in the air. He's walking on water. He's disappearing in the air. He's reappearing out of the air. His face turns into the sun. He controls the weather. Tells a hurricane, stop, shut up, and he's like, sorry, sir, I'll shut up right now. I mean, this is all fiction. I mean, to think like, this Jesus is supposed to come back surfing on the clouds. This little 5'1", 110-pound guy, dark skin, curly hair, fish-eating, 2,000-year-old guy with superhero powers, with stab wounds in his hands, side and feet. He's supposed to come back surfing the clouds? I mean, seriously? Or on a white police horse? Flying white police horse? I mean, Mary Jo Sharp, come on. This is stuff of legend. This is clearly stuff of legend. This is myth. I love you, Mary Jo Sharp. No, I mean, Mary Jo Sharp, to say this guy's alive today, you would have to say, well, this guy hears and sees whatever you do, right, Mary Jo Sharp, if I'm correct. So that means this little guy with superhero powers can hear, or does hear, 10,000 languages spoken by 7 billion people, and he hears and understands them simultaneously. So simultaneously, this little guy, 5'1", 110 pounds, with superhero powers, with stab wounds in his body, he hears and understands simultaneously 10,000 languages spoken by 7 billion people. All day, all night, he hears 10,000 languages spoken by 7 billion people, and he hears and understands them simultaneously. And we're supposed to believe that, Mary Jo? Seriously? I mean, this guy, he's supposed to see everything, right? So if you're in a cave 2 miles under the earth, he could see you. I guess if he's at that point, circling the earth like a satellite, he could still see, if you're 2 miles in earth. So if you're pooping in the toilet, Jesus is watching you. And he's got supersonic hearing, so if you poop, he hears you. Making love, the noise you make making love, he hears you. You cry, he hears you. I guess people believe he even hears and sees your thoughts. You see how crazy, when you start to believe in the New Testament Jesus is being real, how crazy it starts to get when you flesh it out into the now? It gets like, this is crazy. This is fiction. This is clearly fiction. And there's nothing wrong with believing in fiction. I told Mary Jo Sharp, there's nothing wrong with you believing in fiction and superhero characters. Nothing wrong with Christians believing and worshiping a superhero character. Heck, we pay money to go see Spider-Man, Superman, Incredible Hulk. We pay money. It's nothing wrong with anyone believing in fictional characters. Nothing wrong with it. Let's admit it. Life can be tough and hard. Life at times can be really tough. It can kick your ass a lot of times, right? So Mary Jo Sharp and Christians, if you need a superhero character to help you get through the toughness of life, it's okay. It's okay. Mary Jo Sharp, I respect that, seriously. I love to see little kids, how they believe in Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. We all love it. We all play into that teacher. Yes, Santa Claus is real, and Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy, put your tooth under the pillow. It's all fun and beautiful. It adds intrigue to life. It's so same thing with you, Mary Jo, and all. It's okay. Just don't be dogmatic. That's all. Stop all this hell talk and God isn't mad at you, and obey the Bible, and all this dogmatic, divisive stuff. Just stop it. Because, obviously the New Testament Jesus, the superhero Jesus, is fiction. But it's okay to believe in fiction, Mary Jo and Chris. It's okay. Kids believe in fiction. They believe in Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny. It's okay. Mary Jo and all Christians believe in fairy tales. It's okay. What's not okay is being dogmatic, scaring people with hell, and God's mad at you, and empty your pockets out to the church for tithing, all this dogmatic, divisive stuff. Just stop it. But believing in fairy tales, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just don't be divisive. Stop all dogmatic stuff. But it's okay to believe in fairy tales. It's okay. Well, signing off. Brett Strong. Till next time. 60 seconds or less.